Two teams vying for precious playoff position in the Central Division. It's a Blues Mammoth crossover today on Locked On.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into a special crossover edition of Locked On Mammoth and Locked On Blues. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime Mammoth analyst Robyn Leaño and St. Louis Blues analyst Haley Taylor-Simon. We are very pleased to have you on board with us today as we host this crossover episode because these two teams are going to be battling it out for the exact same parking spot, for the exact same position on the highway here as they're trying to get into the playoffs this year. We're going to talk about that today. This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So last year, the Mammoth were knocking on the door for a while. Looked like we thought they might get in. And then all of a sudden, Haley, St. Louis showed up. They came to the party a little late, but boy, did they make it interesting.
They sure did. I mean, the Blues, they like to do this a lot when it comes to going to the playoffs, where they sometimes wait up until the last week or even last couple of games. But luckily, the Blues were able to get in. They broke their non-playoff streak, their drought, and they were able to get eliminated in the first round. But hey, they made it to a Game 7 double overtime, so at least that's something.
They made it super interesting. And I know Robyn and I were talking if the Mammoth get in, would it have been like that? I think St. Louis really gave it a huge effort. And as you say, I mean, they were one bounce, one break away from getting to round two.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a close game, that Game 7. I personally thought the Blues had it, and I was about to celebrate. And there was this great video that I took of myself about to react, right, from beating the Winnipeg Jets. And in the video, you just see the complete and utter just sadness come across my face as 1.6 seconds left in regulation, and Winnipeg is able to tie it. But I think that we learned a lot about the Jets, mainly in that series, more so than the Blues. I think that when you're looking at teams, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but when you're looking at teams in the Central Division that might not be as successful this upcoming season, I think Winnipeg made themselves known for, hey, maybe we're not a consistent playoff hockey team.
One of the things that that I'm curious about and want to get your thoughts on was getting into that stretch into that playoff spot. Tom and I were talking about what it takes to get in playoffs, and I know the Utah Mammoth, they want to be there. And when it came to all the end of it, a hot finish, and you have to finish strong. What are the things that the Blues did right in that stretch?
Robyn, that's a really good question because there was a lot of things that the Blues did right, and that was playing with their momentum. When you look at the roster on the Blues, one of the big players that you'll notice, Dylan Holloway, he couldn't play. He was injured. So you had to have other players on the team step up. You had the fourth line step up. You had Binnington play lights out in net. So you had a lot of players that took on roles. Like you had a Cam Fowler who's played some of his best hockey here in St. Louis. But also, too, you rely on your top talent like a Robert Thomas and a Jordan Kyrou. So overall, this team has players, as I named Robert Thomas, Jordan Binnington, Colton Parayko, Braden Shen, different players that have been Stanley Cup champions. And again, people forget that when the Blues won the Cup in 2019, they were the worst team in the Western Division after January. So they had a really battle to get into the playoffs as it was. So when you have players that are already used to that, I don't want to say adversity, but that's what it is. Maybe that rubs off, but it was magical. I can't deny it. Like sometimes it's a little bit of luck, but that's how they had to play all season. And you can't wait until like the last month of hockey to play that good. But hey, a 12-game win streak, I'm not complaining.
Haley, you make an interesting point because you look at this Coyotes/Mammoth franchise. It's been a long time since they've been to the playoffs as well. So they don't have that run, and certainly not a Stanley Cup to look back on. But 2019 was now 6 years ago. Do you feel like that still reverberates through the organization, or maybe just through the fan base at the very least? It's not recent history anymore, and a lot of that core has changed. But do they still kind of carry that with them?
I would still hope it's recent enough for own personal reasons, but overall, I think when it comes to Utah, it's such an interesting team because I'm like a stat nerd, and I look back at rosters and how players do, and I still want to say Arizona, and then I want to say Phoenix. So excuse me if I ever mess it up, but um, when you look back at their history, the team's history, they've had really strong players, they've had strong coaches, and it's not like funny for you in Utah, obviously, or Arizona if you once were a Coyotes fan who became a Mammoth fan. But it just was so unfortunate with some of the players not panning out there and then panning out on other teams. And I saw that track history a lot. But what I will say is that players like a Clayton Keller make me personally, as a Blues fan, very afraid because Utah has a lot of young talent. And I think what I observed, and again, I'm not a fan of the Mammoth. However, watching a good amount of games due to the Blues, I think that I've observed my team and their fan and our fan base being afraid of Utah because Utah, they play a fast game and people underestimated the Mammoth a lot heading into the season. So, overall, to answer your question, I think that there's something special happening right now in Utah, something special enough that I personally cannot count them out this upcoming season.
Robyn,
You know
you
what?
look pleased.
No, I was gonna say I'm, always just glad to hear, and I'm pretty sure even maybe some of your listeners out there might have just had a quick heart skip when you hear that when they just hear the name of Chesterfield, Missouri native Clayton Keller.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved more than anything for him to be with the Blues, but he has such a great opportunity in Utah, and it, it sucks. And I'm hoping one day that's how I feel about the Kachucks, but it's one of those things where he is excelling in Utah and he's playing some of his best hockey. So I wish him personally nothing but the best. I can't say the same about some of the other guys on the team. However, it's always cool to see a guy that's like a hometown guy be successful. And we saw that with Pat Maroon, even before he joined the Blues. You always root for the guys that are from, the area.
This is an interesting crossover to do because these two teams, like I say, are kind of fighting for similar airspace here. Both of them are really trying to establish themselves as playoff contenders and cup contenders moving forward. We've talked a lot on Locked On Mammoth, and we'll get into that in our next segment too, talking about the Mammoth and what they've done and how they've changed over the offseason. But Haley, for Mammoth viewers and listeners who weren't following the Blues this summer, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the highlights for that Blues team? That the adds or maybe the subtractions? What's going to make a difference and an impact for St. Louis?
Well, the Blues lost a lot of talent when trading Zach Bolduc forward, a player that we saw a lot of potential in. And a trade which the Blues then acquired Logan Mailloux from the Canadians. He only played 7 NHL games, didn't do well in them, and he did great in the AHL. So we have Logan, and then the Blues signed Milan Lucic to a professional tryout, nothing official. However, Lucic's agent is also the agent of some other guys on the team. So it makes it quite interesting. Other than that, I mean, we're actually, as we're filming today, by the way, this is the 1 year anniversary of the double offer sheets that Edmonton decided not to match. So I know that's not an addition this off season, but other than that, it's been relatively quiet. I mean, they got Pius Suter, who's a really strong player, good goal scorer, but they got rid of Nick Leddy, who is now a San Jose Shark. Thank the Lord. I said that they need to get rid of Leddy and Justin Folk. Unfortunately, Justin Folk's still on the team. It is what it is. And then we're not going to be seeing Torrey Krug return to the ice this season. And my suspicion is ever so that became announced. But yeah, the Blues, they have a good team as it is, and you just hope that that chemistry and that culture that we saw the Blues have last season just continues.
So, we are going to talk about the Mammoth on the other side of the break, but Haley, I've got another question for you then. Overall, better or worse? We're going to talk about that here in just a second.
I would say personally, and it's not because of any of the moves that they made this offseason, the Blues are a better team than they were a year ago because we saw an improved Dylan Holloway. We saw how good his chemistry is with Jordan Kyrou. You got rid of a liability, to be quite honest with you, with Justin Folk on defense. So that's a positive that he's out. I can't say, though, about the trade with Zach Bolduc and Logan Mailloux. I can't come on here and say it's better because we saw a lot of good out of Zach Bolduc. Logan Mailloux, we haven't seen anything, so I can't say that. I can't say it's good with having a guy sign for a professional tryout because he may not even make the team. And I guess with Pius Suter, that's positive, even though I wish they re-signed Ryan Suter. And they have extended Cam Fowler, so it's better, but with problems.
Locked on crossover today, Blues and Mammoth style. We are going to be talking about the Mammoth here in just a moment. So, hey, if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, follow along with us. We appreciate you being here on Locked On. And today's show is brought to you in part by Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. That's one of my favorite things about the app. You've heard me talk about this before. I love the fact that everything is right there in front of you. I don't have to bounce app to app to app and then write things down and then try to go back and remember something that I forgot to write down. It's all right there in front of you with Monarch. It makes it so much easier to manage things, not only long term, but day to day as well. One login, one place, one app. Love it. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño, and Haley Taylor Simon. Locked on Mammoth, Locked on Blues crossover today. We'll talk a little bit about the Mammoth here in this segment. Haley, from a Blues standpoint, from Blues fans looking over at the Mammoth, what questions do you think this fan base comes up with talking about this team? Because Robyn and I don't know. I think we have plenty to be excited about. So
There's a lot to be excited about. And one of the players that the Mammoth signed about a month ago, Scott Perunovich, a player that I've had a lot of conversations with here in St. Louis, as well as me actually following along with him with the team, the Islanders that he was on, that he got traded to. So my question to you is, do you see him even fitting into the opening night roster?
That's actually a really good question. It's interesting to me because, like, when I initially saw this signing, and maybe Tom might have a different perspective, is like we saw him as a guy who can kind of help really develop a lot of the guys in the Tucson Roadrunners. So, I mean, I'm seeing really him start probably in Tucson. There right now is such a stacked defensive blue line for the Utah Mammoth. It is really hard to get up there and be among the top six. And I think no matter how it cuts down, like Tom, it's right. And you know this, we've talked about it. It's going to be beyond competitive.
It very much is. And looking at, really last year from 35 games, 5 points, has to be a guy who can play defense well. And my first thought with the Perunovich signing was this is someone who fits in that 8 or 9 spot. Maybe what it does, and this would be kind of nice to have for the Mammoth, because I don't know if you know this, Haley, but at one point last year, 4 of the 6 starting defensemen for the Mammoth were out.
Yep.
So you need depth. This is actually a little bit of a paranoid signing in a way, but hopefully that does not happen again. But I look at him as a guy, 27 years old, still upside. A lot of defensemen kind of come into their own in their late 20s. So You like what you see. You know he can handle NHL minutes. I think what this does is it also gives some of the younger defensemen the chance to stay in Tucson and continue to develop so that he becomes the first man up, that first call up for this team. I think he's going to see NHL games this year. Absolutely. I think he will spend some time with the Mammoth. Is it in a full-time role? Unless he comes into camp and just absolutely knocks our socks off, I don't think so. I think he's destined for a split year, but 1 year at minimum. He's an insurance policy and a good one.
There was a lot of signings, I would like to say, for the Mammoth, and one of the players, Nate Schmidt. Now, again, the Mammoth, I'm trying to kind of figure out what they're trying to do. Is this a win now team or is this a let's rebuild team? Because with the amount of players that they signed this offseason, and I want to say so far, just because anything can happen, it just makes me kind of question the direction of where the Mammoth are going.
This is a tailor-made Robyn Leaño question.
It actually is fantastic. No, it's interesting because I have taken a look at what this rebuild was dating from the Arizona Coyotes as coming in phases. And to me, Taylor, I think that this phase is what now is this, as we're starting from this 25-26 season, is our emergence phase. They are ready to go from rebuild portion of this of their rebuild to this is them emerging. This is them getting ready to compete and make it into the playoffs. Not necessarily go and win now. They're not going to go out and try to win a Stanley Cup today, but they're going out to find all the guys to compete, really get at all that depth, start fine-tuning things a little bit to see what works on getting a playoff run, see how far they can get it in.
To me, there's no more excuses. Playoffs are bust. That's the pressure we're putting on them this year. So you go out and you get a Peterka, you mean business. Now you've got a Keller, you've got a Gunther, you've got a Cooley, you've got all these players. You signed Karel Vejmelka to a long-term starting goaltender money contract. We'll see if he can be that long-term starting goaltender. But you also have a pretty stacked decor. You picked up Sergachev last year, Dursey, as long as they're healthy. You talk about Schmidt, a guy who his press conference was interesting. He said, you know what? He's like, I'm not the way I was early in my career. He said, now I kind of want to come in and just play where I fit. And I want to be a part of things. I want to help out. I want to mentor the young guys. Wherever you put me is fine. How often or ever do you hear an NHL player say that? Wherever you put me is fine. I'll play.
Yeah, not often at all.
So it's an exciting time for Utah. But here's the thing: we're feeling that updraft of momentum and the emotions of coming off that first year. But so Haley, this is the thing, and I mean the Blues are kind of the bus that's parked right in front of the Mammoth here. And the Central Division, we all know the Central Division is a giant pain in the butt because it is just so good top to bottom.
That's a good answer. And I think that's actually
Oh, we're lost. Haley, we lost your microphone there. Your mic broke up and then it.
This is a playoff or bust team. I like that you said that. So another thing that I kind of want to dive into right now is about the team's identity. You have a name. Congratulations. Utah. I personally like the Utah Hockey Club a lot. But what do you think it means for the fan base? I know this might be a very generic question, but what does it mean to the fan base to have now an official name and to just have an identity, not maybe necessarily with the team player wise, because they have to figure things out, but just organization wise?
I mean, that's also, I'd say another great question, because when I took over, when it rebranded as from Locked On Coyotes to, at the time, Locked On NHL in Utah, my very first episode was breaking down every single team name, and I talked about the importance of what it meant to finally find that identity. And I said, it's for all these fans to be able to have something to latch on, to actually have a name, to kind of take through the community and find find a core to it, find whether it's the phrasing. I mean, look what they're doing right now. They are going full on the hashtag Tusks up. The fans are loving it. And that's, to me, I think that's the most important thing for a fan to be able to attach to that. They can say, hey, I am a Utah Mammoth fan. And you go around, you see someone else is in a jersey, and you just yell out Tusks up because they're having fun with it. It means just so much to finally have an identity.
It's a Locked On crossover episode. We're talking Mammoth, we're talking Blues, and next we are talking about the entire Central Division. Thanks for joining us, everyone, here on this NHL crossover edition of Locked On Mammoth and Locked On Blues. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every single day when it comes to your favorite NHL team. We appreciate you being here. Also, we want to say hey to the everydayers. We love you guys. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the show, welcome. Also, tell your friends if you like what you hear, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe as well. You know what? I have long said, so even when I worked for Nashville, we used to say the Central Division was the toughest division in the entire NHL. And we're talking, so I was there from 2009 to 2013. This has not changed, in my opinion, in that time. This division is stacked top to bottom. And that's why it's so hard. We all want to predict ourselves in the playoffs, right? And we say, well, Nashville can't possibly be that bad. They're going to predict themselves back in the playoffs. And like Chicago's coming up, they're going to get back in the playoffs. Not everybody fits in the playoffs. So, Haley, I'll be interested. We'll start with your thoughts here. But I mean, does anyone fall out of the playoffs this year?
Yeah, and it's the Winnipeg Jets. And I know that there's some people that might be like, oh, they were the president, winning team, trophy winning team. I understand, but the amount of flaws that I saw in the playoffs blew my mind. And I can respect, listen, am I a Connor Hellebuck fan? No, my favorite American goalie is Jake Ottinger, but that's not the point. The point is that the Jets, they didn't do much this offseason. They have a team that's relatively older. So, no, I don't think that they're going to be a team that's going to have that successful of a regular season. You have so many teams in the Central Division that are really strong and good teams and a lot of young teams. And again, when I'm looking at falling out, I can't confidently say Dallas because Dallas is scary. And I feel like Dallas has been so consistent. And let's face it, Colorado, for whatever reason, they just end up always somehow getting better, which makes no sense to me how they've just been consistently good for years now. But I look at other teams that I think could knock out the Winnipeg Jets. I look at the Minnesota Wild, the Blues, and Utah. Not Nashville. I actually had Nashville finishing in last place last season before the season began, and I'm happy about that just because I thought the money to Steven Stamkos was a bit ridiculous. But Chicago, they still have a few years to kind of be a more relevant team. They have players. They're an original six, obviously, but they're just not developed yet. So I selfishly want it to be Winnipeg. Realistically, it might either be the Blues, the Wild, or Utah that doesn't get in.
It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I was talking about this very thing about with Topol last week, and we're saying, hey, who is someone who's going to fall out? And there was at least a level of agreement that Winnipeg is going to take a step back. Who knows whether or not they're going to actually make it in. I was making an argument, Haley, for Dallas to be the one that falls out, mainly only because they're still, they gotta have a crazy amount of talent and they're still good, but I feel like there's going to be a heavy amount of fallout from the Peter DeBoer situation, and that's all. That's all I'll say. And everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say the Peter DeBoer situation. It is such a mess from everything that happened there that honestly I don't think they'll survive from it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Robyn. And selfishly, again, as I consider right now in this moment Dallas to be the team that always gives the Blues the hardest time, I would love more than anything for them to take a step back. And I won't dive too much into it because we all know what's going on. However, what I will say is I think it's interesting that it's been so far the Jets, now Dallas. I'm curious what Tom thinks, because are you going to break the tie and choose one of these two teams, or are you going to go with the other team that got a top 3 seeding?
Once again, for the second year in a row, it sounds like I'm going to have to get on my soapbox and defend my Winnipeg Jets. For the second year in a row in the regular season, they allowed the fewest goals against. Second straight year. You do not overnight, whether you get a year older or not, become the worst defensive team in hockey. Hellebuck's still good. He might not be a playoff money goaltender. That's fine. But in the regular season, there's no way this team is not hovering around the top of the Central Division. Dallas is going to survive the coaching change, and I think they're better off without Pete DeBoer, to be honest with you. I think they'll get better without him. I'm not a big fan of DeBoer. I think he ruins goaltenders. I watched him do it in Vegas when I covered the Golden Knights. I don't like him as a coach. So I think they're better off without him. That said, so I'll be interested to see what happens with St. Louis this year, the Blues, as far as whether or not they're going to take a step back, because honestly, I don't think they're as strong as they were last year. And the inconsistency in goal is what scares me a little bit, because I like when Binnington is Binnington and he's angry and he's playing aggressive. And I think he can carry a team a long way. I just don't know if he's going to do it over the course of a whole season and what that mix is going to be. However, my pick to not be in the playoffs this year is Minnesota.
My follow-up question based off of your answer, and we'll get into the Minnesota. Why don't you think the Blues are as good heading into this season than they were last season?
So I do worry, again, starting with Binnington. It all really starts and ends with him, because if he's playing well, he carries this team. But if he's not playing well, they're going to struggle. And that's, to me, that's too dicey of a situation. It means your defense isn't stalwart enough. We've seen some pretty average goaltenders win a Stanley Cup in the last couple of years because they had good defensive puck possession teams.
Not the Blues.
In front of, well,
our defense is trash.
And that's kind of it. Just taking a quick look at it. I mean, you've got Falk tied up. You mentioned Corey Krug. That's $6.5 million of long-term IR. Parayko's wrapped up for a while, but beyond that, I mean, you've got Broberg and Fowler and Tucker.
No. We're not going to diss Cam Fowler. Cam Fowler was our golden boy last season, and so was 40-year-old Ryan Suter, who the Blues did not resign.
And that's the thing, is Fowler's 33 and Suter's 40. So
yeah, no, I get the age thing, but
I worry about those guys' age, especially. Well, Suter's kind of ageless. Like, he was in Nashville when I was in Nashville, and the guy was amazing. He does so much underrated stuff. But I worry about that. And then the other thing, honestly, like, I look at the Blues up front and I say, well, where are all of the goals going to come from? And so that's honestly the one that, like, I like Buchnevich. I don't know if I $8 million like him until 2031 like him. And I know we're only talking about this year. I get that. I just wonder about the flexibility of the Blues with under $1 million in cap space if something's not going right. That's the other thing. They're kind of hamstrung to start the year off. If things aren't going right, they can only fix it with a trade.
Well, here's the good news, though, Tom.
Okay.
For the Utah Mammoth, this is a very positive situation because the Blues have the most no trade clauses in the NHL.
Oh my goodness.
It's bad. But that's an interesting take, because I think getting a perspective from somebody that's not necessarily a Blues fan and somebody that's able to look at this from the outside and say, hey, these are the reasons why. I might disagree, but on some of the things I could look and say, hey, I do agree. I think that's why these episodes are so important for the listeners, for all of you watching, especially my Blues people watching, because now you're hearing a perspective and it can kind of make us think, wait, did Doug Armstrong kind of screw over the team with all these no trade clauses and the horrible contracts for some of the players? So I do appreciate that.
And honestly, like, that is my first glance knee-jerk reaction, is you have $24 million and change tied up in 3 forwards. Now, not that that's a bad thing if they're all producing for you, but Kyrou, Thomas, and Buchnevich are being paid to carry this team. Are they going to carry the team?
Well, I can tell you this. My boy Robert Thomas is one of the most consistent players, one of the most underrated players in the NHL. Jordan Kyrou, for now 3 consecutive seasons, he has scored 30-plus goals, 70 points the past couple seasons. And then you have Bushi, might have not had the best season last season, but at the end of the day, he's a solid playmaker and a big body. There's so much talent on this Blues team. They need to extend Dylan Holloway. But I guess overall, the difference between the Blues and the Mammoth right now is that the Blues is players that I guess you can say are relatively younger or in that phase of already past development, where you look at Utah, And those guys, they're going to get through this season, where you have a lot of young players that are going to finally have kind of like their breakthrough season this upcoming season. Whereas the Blues, they already had that in the past couple of seasons, and now they're just trying to improve even more. I think Jordan Binnington is one of the better goalies in the NHL. Defense is an issue. Offense, though, this team, I mean, it's scary when you have Dylan Holloway and Kyrie next to each other, but I'm excited. I want it to be hockey season. This has gotten me like fired up right now.
I know.
Oh no,
Rob,
it absolutely can't wait. No,
Rob, oh, go ahead, Robyn.
No, I was gonna say too. Like, I mean, one thing I can't wait for is when it comes down to the end of it, whether or not it is probably again, as we see where it gets, the final game is again between of the season is between Utah and St. Louis, which is something that I think they do on purpose because they know those two teams are probably going to be battling into the playoffs at that point. And who wouldn't love to finish the season with a good old GM battle between Bill and Doug Armstrong?
No, I agreed. I looked at the schedule. I'm like, this is awesome. I think having the final game of the season against these two teams, I'll admit, last year playing Utah, difficult games, good team. I think that this is going to be a battle, but I love when the final game of the season isn't just a throwaway game. And I love when it's down to game 82 and it's the theatrics like a playoff game, but it's not a playoff game. I love that. So I'm not hoping to be in that position. I'm hoping to have a little bit of security, maybe for both of us to have a little bit of security. But at the end of the day, hey, if it's 82 that determines the outcome, then may the best team win.
I wanted that game to matter so much last year, and it didn't.
Who did you end up playing in your final game?
The Blues.
I know.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to say that.
It was embarrassing.
I know.
It was embarrassing.
I just was wanting you to say that.
5-1. Can't forget it. I wanted that game to matter. It did not. But
I just that was the whole purpose.
I mean, it was funny because I think at that point, Tom and I were questioning a lot of different situations on goaltending management. It was like it was however many games straight for
I think it ended up at 22 by the time we were all said and done.
Was Logan Cooley the illegal scorer in that game? I'll have to go back and look.
I had to take a look back at that score sheet, but
either way,
I still have no doubt that whenever these two teams play against each other, I know Bill and Doug are both still sharing a beer, and then whoever's sweet.
Well, Robyn, you know what's funny? When Robyn was hosting the Locked On Coyotes podcast before it became the Locked On Utah and then Locked On Mammoth, it went through a lot of changes.
Oh yeah.
We both talked about the one season where the Blues and the Coyotes at that one time played each other like 3 times within a month. It was something insane. So I am happy that at least it's more spread out this season.
I mean, I remember a season where I forgot who was the Blues host at the time. It was we had a different Locked On Blues host, and I think it was my first season covering the Arizona Coyotes, and that was shortened COVID season when they started in January, and it was the Coyotes and the Blues for 7 games straight. And I was sick and tired. It was like the 7th game in a row. And I'm like, are you telling them, are you as tired of this as we are, as for just going back and forth on this?
Yeah, it was weird, that whole time period. So I am happy now that at least it's spread out and I can at least talk to both of you as the season goes on, and not just within the same couple weeks.
Here's the other fun thing, though, is, we couldn't leave the show without talking about the DNA of both of these teams is very similar. It's draft big, draft physical, be hard to play against. And I think that's why the Blues won the Cup in 2019. I think they were the hardest team to play against. They beat you down, leaned on you, and physically just wiped you out of a series. And that's what now the Mammoth aren't quite direct descendants of that because they have some smaller, shiftier guys too. But Robyn and I have noted on several occasions, Haley, we talk about this a lot. The DNA of that Blue Stanley Cup is a lot of what you find in the vocal blueprint, if you will. Every time Bill Armstrong steps to a microphone, that's what he talks about.
Yeah, and I think physicality does win you cups. And what I mean by that is you can go on and you can say goaltending and defense, offense, but at the end of the day, and we saw this with the Florida Panthers, they were the more physical team, more physical than Edmonton. And to be a physical team, I'm not saying to always be fighting, but it's those hard, heavy hits that slow down the opposing team, which then gives your team the opportunity to have more chances to score on goal. And, I don't want to come on this episode and say I think Utah is more physical. On paper, yes, but I want to see at least a couple preseason games, or at least see how they play within the first couple games before I can make an assessment. But on paper, yes, I can say that they are a more physical team, especially with the additions to their team. And just, obviously I watch a lot of, Keller because, again, St. Louis guy. Yeah, I'm scared. It's a physical team, fast team. That's the one thing I noted. It's a defensively fast hockey team. That's my notes. I have notes down on all the teams. That's my note about Utah. It's a defensively fast hockey team.
It's going to be interesting this year. Robyn, do you have any thoughts or a question you want to pop out there before we wrap her up?
No, I think I think that all end things pretty well. I mean, the only thing I'll say is, glad you just mentioned the blueprint again, because there's a reason I kept mentioning both of the Armstrongs' name. I mean, Bill is essentially a descendant from that Blues organization. So,
Haley, leave us with a bullet point for the Blues. Like, if you're putting up a poster, okay, for opening night Blues, and why do I come see this hockey team? Give me your selling point for St. Louis.
Robert Thomas. Mic drop. That's it. Robert Thomas is the best player on the Blues. He's the most exciting player to watch. He creates the most plays, period. And he is a star. And he's underrated because the national media does not focus on teams that are not the original six or the big market cities. And I will forever preach that. As I cover a team that is in a big market, who is not a good hockey team, they get a lot more national games than the Blues did. So I think for me personally, I think if you want to watch the Blues, if you haven't watched the Blues, if you're a Utah fan and you just want to see what the Blues are like, keep an eye out for Robert Thomas, because this is a player that's going to end up making Team Canada for the Olympics. And he's a player that's going to be really scary to play against.
Robyn, who's on the Mammoth poster?
Logan Cooley.
Oh,
Logan Cooley.
Not Clayton Keller. Logan Cooley.
I love Keller, and I think I think he's all he's all the star that made it to be. But Logan Cooley is the future of this team, no doubt about it.
Bold, I love it.
Really fast. What I will say is, whenever the Blues and Utah played last season, the player that I always do like the player I'm going to fear the most, it was always Logan Cooley. He scares the living bleep out of me because he is that good of a player.
I saw someone, they instantly wanted to do a redraft of the 2022 NHL draft. This is the quickest redraft I've ever seen. And then instantly Logan Cooley gets drafted at first overall. And no doubt about it at this point.
Such a good player.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Want to say thank you to Haley Taylor Simon, Locked On Blues, Robyn, Leaño, and Tom Callahan, Locked On Mammoth. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate you being here, and we look forward to catching up with you next time on Locked On. A big piece of the future has a chance to shine at a rookie showcase on today's Locked On Mammoth.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in once again to Locked On Mammoth. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and together we bring you the Locked On Mammoth podcast. We are so pleased to have you on board here with us. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every single day when it comes to the Utah Mammoth. Well, we are almost into September, and as we approach training camp, plenty of stories that are going to make themselves evident here. September is going to be our month to get you jazzed, get you ready. And one of the earliest things happening is going to be the rookie portion of camp as we get to the season. But one Utah Mammoth rookie has a chance to impress at a rookie showcase. Robyn, none other than Tij Igninla has been invited to the 2025 NHLPA rookie showcase in Arlington, Virginia. The only downside about this September 3rd event, unfortunately, is it's closed to the public. So we won't get a chance to see it. But Iginla was picked as the Mammoth representative. And so, Robyn, I want to ask you, as a player who missed half a season of hockey last year, is it a little surprising that it's Iginla that gets the nod, or do you just feel maybe the provenance and the draft position kind of made him the obvious choice?
You know, it's interesting that you bring this up, Tom, because I'm trying to take a look at any other option that there might that you could put out there, right? I mean, you can make a really good argument for Cole Baudouin. We can maybe talk about that in a little bit, but if you take a look at this year, the top prospect who would be decided is out for a while with Caleb Desnoyers after having a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago at this point, just getting being sidelined with a medium to long term injury. Again, we have to figure out what's going on with that, but to me, I think, Tom, that this signals that there's some confidence that he's ready, or at least like ready to get back on the ice full speed, do all that, and really prove himself. But B, I think it shows to an opportunity maybe that he can get an early look, step onto the ice a little bit early, to showcase that he is ready. He is ready to get back and actually try to make a push for a spot on opening night roster for the Utah Mammoth.
Now, I'm sure all the donors know that last year's representative was Josh Doan.
Oh,
so, yeah. But I want to talk about Iginla here in just a moment. And the whole point of the showcase, and I'll tell you in a minute after I tell you today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets right now. One of the reasons, let's face it, Robyn, you got to have, the drip going here for your, as it turns out, upper deck photo shoot. That's what this is about. Upper Deck is going to take photos and videos of some of the top prospects for their hockey cards and other memorabilia. Now, again, This is September 3rd at the MedStar Capitals Iceplex Arena, which is where the Caps practice, and again, close to the public. Here's the interesting thing to me. So Josh Doan was there last year, and now, so Doan comes out of that, and it really, isn't it kind of crazy? Actually, before we get to Iginla, this is a point I want to ask you about, because, boy, they really still had a lot of just high expectations for Doan going into last season, and it just seems like it didn't quite happen.
Yeah, it didn't.
Now it's a
You're right. It didn't quite happen. I mean, here's a couple of things. I mean, I think most of us kind of expected Doan to play bottom 6 minutes still, at the very most for the Mammoth this last season, or I guess the Utah Hockey Club at that point. But you're right. I feel like it's interesting, but if you think about it, maybe one thing you can make an argument for, and this could very well be the case, is yes, skill level is one of the things that goes into these inviting to the rookie showcase. But as you said, it's an opportunity to get these photo shoots and do all that done. So that means to be telling me, Tom, that a lot of it really goes beyond the skill talent of these rookies. It really more is the name value and what this kind of what it brings. Last year, as you mentioned, it was Josh Doan. And why did that matter to that group? Because it's Doan. I mean, the son of Shane Doan, Arizona Coyotes great Shane Doan. So there's a legacy name to it, so much name recognition. And now you get the same exact thing, another legacy pick for the Utah Mammoth in Tij Igninla, being, of course, the son of Jarome Iginla.
And a couple other players are going to be there. Jimmy Snuggerud, another famous offspring. Matthew Schaefer, Ryan Leonard, among others who are scheduled to be there. I'm really interested to see exactly What Iginla, and this is the thing, misses some time due to injury. And so talking about the fact that, his dad, Jerome Iginla, number one of the hardest working NHL players of his time, one of the best leaders of his generation. I think now what we're looking to see, and I mean, we, the hockey folks and Mammoth fans, keep an eye on this, is how much of that got passed down? How much of the leadership, how much of the grit, the determination? Report said Robyn spent a lot of time in the gym this offseason, really trying to get in shape, get better, and make a big impact when he was able to return to the ice. And I think that is something to get really excited about.
And I think the other thing too is, we're not there. We're not behind closed doors, so we can't really confirm as much. But you'd only assume that it didn't start there. Maybe during his recovery, he did as much dry land, off ice, non-impact based off injury kinds of workouts that he's able to do so he can stay fit. Because if you're just sidelined and sitting for the entire time you're injured, I can say this, Tom, like and I think anyone who's been an athlete before or knows what it means to be in competing, whether it's in recreational, high school sports, college sports, whatever, if you sit around for way too long and just don't do anything, when you get back out there, you're out of shape. It's so hard. Like, yes, it is like riding a bike. You know what you're doing, but your muscles might take a little bit to catch up. Your muscles, your lungs, your everything takes a while to catch up. So maybe that's a whole aspect. We didn't see from Iginla's recovery, and maybe that kind of played a huge impact into how well he's able to get back on the ice.
He looked pretty good at Dev Camp, so that's a good thing to see. And I think they feel comfortable heading into the season. All signs have indicated he's going to be ready. Now, look, I know it was non-contact for him at Dev Camp. He didn't get to actually scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Had the "Don't Touch Me" jersey on. I get that. But it's the "Don't Touch Me" jersey. But that doesn't worry me so much because he was able to participate in just about everything. And now the space between here is another couple of months. To me, and that's the other thing, quite frankly, I don't think he not only is invited, but then accepts this invite without being at 100%. So I feel pretty good about that. I think the Mammoth were definitely cautious this summer, but hey, he was out there on the ice for most of it. And I think that bodes very, very well for where Iginla is and how ready he's going to be for the upcoming season. So something to get excited about, I think.
Oh, no, certainly something to get excited for. And I know so many Mammoth fans are just super excited for their just to see Tij Igninla hit the ice. Maybe you were a Mammoth fan who tried to watch him through as much of the junior of his year in junior before getting injured that they could, right? But there's only so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully he does get a full season in there. Who knows? Might start with the big club this year. We'll see. We'll see if he's going to be able to get those games in. All right, Robyn and I have more to get to on the program here. We actually have a very important note, something we want to discuss on the other side of it. Locked On's doing a couple of things new. We talked about the NHL Top 100. Now there's a fan survey as well that we really want you to be a part of if you're able to take the time, and you might be able to get yourself a gift card. We're going to talk about that here in just a sec. All right, today's show brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401k, properties, investments, any of that. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances for whatever reason, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, you get smart categorization of your spending, and you finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Categorization. This is something I haven't talked about a whole lot. I talk about the convenience of having everything in one place. I love that. I hate going from app to app. But the categorization, it breaks it out, makes it much easier to see where you are and where you are not spending money. Maybe you think you're spending more on gas than you are, but maybe you're spending more on streaming. Maybe you're spending more on your entertainment dollars. Maybe, you could budget a little bit more for groceries, and you don't get to see those things necessarily when you kind of have to hop around and view everything in different bubbles. And that's why Monarch makes things so easy, and it allows you to just keep track of everything in one place. I do absolutely love it for that. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you. This is the part, folks. Number one, if you like what you hear, please like, follow, subscribe. Punch the old thumbs up down there if you're on the YouTube side, and it helps us with the algorithm, helps you with the algorithm as well to find more great hockey content like this. I know the everydayers love hearing us dish about the Utah Mammoth as we're coming up here on September, and then training camp will be here before you know it. I mean, it's right around the corner. Then all of a sudden it'll be opening night. But I always say, hey, if you like what you hear, let us know. Well, we have an important request for you. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts, ours, of course, better than ever. This is your chance to tell us, number one, what you like, but also what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. So if you go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey, you can get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So lockedonpodcast.com/survey, and you're entered to win for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the survey link in our show notes. Thanks for helping us out. This is your chance to be a voice. And number one, thanks to the folks who let us know in the comments, or they reach out to us on social media talking about the show. We're always looking to innovate. We're always looking to do new things. And hey, you know what? If you like the show, we would particularly like you to take the survey.
Yeah, and let them know that you love us.
You can talk about Robyn Sparkles till you're blue in the till you run out of characters. You talk about Robyn.
Not talk about Robyn Sparkles.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, seriously though, it's your chance to feed back into this and kind of help shape what this becomes. There's been a lot going on and the business side of things, and with acquisitions and mergers and all that fun stuff lately. We're not going anywhere. First of all, I don't know if you're a media geek like me and you stay abreast of all that stuff. Number one, we're not going anywhere. But number two, Robyn, it does help because, look, let's face it, we are a show that reacts to what people enjoy. We want to bring you more of the content you enjoy. So if you do like things, one of the things this year we're going to do more of is lives, simply because, Robyn, we heard people tell us that they wanted more live content.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's an interesting thing, Tom, that, something that we overlooked last year. We did a couple and we knew it came out, but we just didn't do enough of those. And then we asked people, it's like, hey, do you want us to do more? They said, yeah, we want you to do more. So we will be doing that. There is still some things in plan for maybe a live, like a really big live coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. You could do the math if you want to do it, but we can't confirm it yet because we're still working out some details. But I'll just leave it at that. But that's going to be one of our biggest lives. But we're going to try to keep doing those, especially during the season, Tom, where I think it's a lot easier to do like a live pregame or a live postgame show.
And that is something, I mean, if you're interested in those, we will be certainly, trying to dedicate some regular time to them, whether it's, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, that we're able to do some pre, some post. We'll do some live reactions on stuff. Plus, I mean, we're always available on social during the games as well. And that, again, direct feedback. That's why we're going to be able to make those changes.
Yeah. And by the way, our like when we do those pre and post lives, those will be in addition to our normal daily content.
Correct. We will still be doing our normal episodes, and then we'll also be doing that on top of everything as well. So that gives me a chance to lean back on the old, and Robyn, you too. I mean, the broadcast training, right? Doing the pregame show, the postgame show. You know, you and I have both worked college and pro sports, and
oh yeah, no, I mean, anyone that's followed me for long enough knows that I did pre and post for KCUB in Tucson, Arizona, doing pre and post for Arizona football and basketball, which was a fun time, by the way. I'll never forget those days until some things happened, and that ended up having me leave that station. If you've been around for a long time, you know the story.
The everydayers, the longtime everydayers, definitely
they know the story.
Yes, for sure they do. All right, the NHL is creeping towards a quicker start to the season. They're not going to shorten the season, but they might start a little sooner. Bill Daly had something to say about that. We'll bring that up next.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And again, I love using FanDuel. It is my place to always check for odds and to place my bets because it makes it super easy to look for player props, to build same-game parlays, to do all that kinds of aspects, and just really to have a lot of fun. I always do a same-game parlay or just do whatever I can, have some fun. In addition to, again, watching my 49ers either have a really great season, disappoint me in the end, or just outright disappoint me no matter what. That's the fun thing about being a San Francisco 49ers fan. But you know what? FanDuel makes it just a little bit more fun, a little bit easier sometimes. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get it started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you, Locked On Mammoth podcast. Again, we really appreciate it if you share the show with your friends. If you like what you hear, that's one of the ways you can help us out. Commenting helps us out, but also sharing the link to the show as well. That is absolutely huge for us. Thank you so much if you do choose to support us like that. Okay, Robyn, what would you feel about the NHL in 2026? So not this year, obviously. Maybe starting a little bit earlier. So we're up to 84 games now. And this to me is the baseball argument, right? Do you really need 162 games? The answer is no. 120, maybe even 100. It's a long season. I want the World Series to end in October, not November. I don't want to be playing in the snow. But so flip it around to hockey. 84 games now. We're adding an extra. We're shortening the preseason a little, but Bill Daly, who is Gary Bettman's right-hand man, said there's the possibility training camps and the regular season could start in September instead of October. Your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting because I was trying to think about this, Tom. I was trying to wrap my head around everything. And I remember a time in which the season would start around Canada Day. Right? It would start around Canada Day, and Stanley Cup Finals would finish in early to mid-June, and now it goes all the way to the end of June. And I'm like, sometimes wondering in my head, I'm like, how do we get here? Or how does it get this long? Things have changed, and with expansion, I mean, there's not going to be expansion anytime soon, at least not in, at least next couple of years. 5-10 years, yes, maybe. But that's for a whole nother conversation. But going to an 84 game season, Tom, it really at this point only makes sense. And in order to keep the season from starting in July, from ending in July, you have to make some compromises. To start in September is the only logical thing that makes sense. And again, we're not talking about starting in September, 10th, right? We're not talking about starting Labor Day. we're talking about, like, to me, this is like later half of September, towards the end, really. This just gives you a couple extra days to be able to kind of boot up and get fit in those extra games without having to end way too late or just, again, starting way too soon. I would honestly, as a media personnel, Tom, like, I like my vacations, right? I think we all deserve some vacations every now and then. That's the one thing I wouldn't like, because, again, it essentially would shorten our time frame, because training camp would start earlier and everything else would start earlier, and then all of a sudden we only have 6 weeks off at the very most from hockey, which, again, we don't even get off anyways, but that's
right.
For
Right. Yeah. I mean, now we get part of July and all of August, really. And then once September hits, the NFL kicks off and college football. But if you want a precedent for starting earlier, I mean, junior hockey already does. So they get things going before anybody else. The one thing, Robyn, that I would want to see out of the earlier start is to finish the cup a little earlier.
I mean, again, that
would be nice.
We were only 10 years removed, from it ending in early mid-June, which is fine. Early mid-June is fine, I think, because at least that's when the cup ends.
And that carries, it's a nice natural follow through to the draft and a free agency.
Yeah, no, because there was
that's fine.
There was maybe a week break between that and then awards and then draft, versus now where it ends and then awards 3 days later and then draft 2 days later, and
the awards aren't even the awards anymore. All the awards are handed out before the awards. What's the point?
Which is interesting, because last year they had the award ceremony and the draft at Sphere, which was the award ceremony wasn't at Sphere. The award ceremony was still in Vegas. It was at Park MGM, somewhere nearby, right? Some theater nearby. But they still did a whole event out of it. And I'm like, why did they get rid of that? Because it was cool, right? Even the media, even some media people during those times got a chance to get, put up their best outfit, walk the red carpet. I would have loved the opportunity to walk a red carpet, Tom. I know. I don't get that. I don't get that experience very well. Yeah, sure. I might have an IMDb page. It doesn't mean I'm that famous.
Had to bring that up again, huh? Just very, very casual, Robyn. I'll just leave this right here. Right there. Hey, let us know in the comments if you've checked out Robyn's IMDb page. I want to know.
It's really blank, by the way. There's not a whole lot to it. It's there. It exists. It's just...
It is there. I'm curious to know if anybody's gone to check it out.
Honestly, I'm curious too.
Yes. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments too. Do you like an earlier start? Do you not want an earlier start? What do you think about that? Does the concept ring true for you? Does it make sense? I don't mind starting a little bit earlier. I will trade regular season meaningful games for preseason. Preseason went too long. Even when I was calling games, Robyn, I mean, it's kind of like going to your starting goaltender. Hey, how many pucks do you need to see? Do you want a full game? Do you want a period here, a period there? What do you need to get ready? That's how I treat it. NFL starting quarterback. What do you need to get ready?
Yeah.
Me, Tom, the radio guy. What do you need to get ready? I need to call one to get back into the
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Tom, because you can use the NFL as a little bit of an example, because the NFL kind of splits it between 4 different weeks, right? By week 3, they're doing a full-on dress rehearsal. So by week 4, it means absolutely nothing, right? Week 4, it's week 1 and week 4 mean nothing.
The Buffalo Bills did not play Josh Allen a single down of the preseason. Josh Allen did not take one snap in a preseason football game.
Yeah, especially even now, slowly over time, preseason's becoming less important, because what they're seeing now is they are running essentially full speed drills during practice. I mean, yes, you need to be able to get the experience of an actual game, but sometimes all you need is just one game of a preseason, maybe 2 at max, and at least you're up to speed and against another team. Because you can do springs, for example, college football. They do a spring scrimmage, right? They can hey, mid-training, see how you go. Sometimes it's against each other, right? They just do it, intra-squad, like I don't know, use University of Arizona because my alma mater is an example, right? Red versus blue, right? What is it? Like, so sometimes some players only need as simple as that. And I'm not saying they should do that because you need more, right? You need a little more than that. But you're right. It is preseason is way too long. Just to shorten that and add more preseason games, or add more regular season games. I like that idea.
Absolutely. You know what I don't need any more of? Taylor Kelsey. Don't need any more of that.
Oh God.
That's
I know there's a decent amount of carryover between the donors and some Swifties, so I won't comment as much.
You know, I always have a quick story for you. Well, I got a quick story for you. So Carrie Underwood married Mike Fisher when Fisher played for the Preds. And the kind of inside joke with everybody there was that we called her Mrs. Fisher. So, that was kind of the thing. Or sometimes we call him Mike Underwood just to get him. But you didn't change your name? Yeah. So Fish, and he was good natured about it. He took the ribbing all in good time. But
I will say, I'll stop you right there. It would be really weird to call Carrie Underwood Carrie Fisher for not a whole another reason, though.
Well, and I get that. Being a Star Wars person, I get that. But Vince Gill did present her with a Mrs. Fisher jersey with Mike's number on it.
Okay.
So he literally did have a Mrs. Fisher jersey made up for her and gave it to her. So there you go. But I guess Vince was in on the joke. So I don't know. But I don't know. I'm not a celebrity couple person. Don't ever take me celebrity spotting, Robyn. If you're like, Tom, this is who we're looking for, and you can show me a photo of the person, I will miss them. I'm just not good at it. Don't take me.
So note to self: do not walk around Hollywood with Tom Callahan.
No, I'm useless. I'm going to be looking at all kinds of stuff that is not people. So, yeah.
No, I'm also with you too. Unless we're walking down like an alley, like a street where like you can point out hockey people, I will do that.
I was going to say an alley. That sounds creepy now.
Not an alley. But
look, I've been greeted by the Sharks fans in San Jose who hang out right outside the gate. They all kind of stand there in the corner, and they have their signs for your bus. Yeah, so that and there is an actual alley behind Madison Square Garden in New York that you pull the bus through. So
yeah, that's also like a 100-year-old stadium. But
so well, it's nice and new inside, I guess. Anyway. Sorry, I'm going to lead us down a rabbit hole we don't need to go down.
We're already getting down there, but
yeah, I know. So, all right. Anyway, early start. What do you think? Let us know. Iginla on his way to an exclusive rookie showcase for the NHLPA and Upper Deck. So all of that going on, and Robyn and I are gearing up for the start of the season here, Robyn. Now, we love to hear from people on social media. Where can they get in touch with us?
Yeah, you can get in touch with us just about everyone's social media. Mostly active over on Twitter/X at Robyn_Leaño. That's me personally. But the show is at Locked On Mammoth. At Locked On Mammoth. And again, that's everywhere. Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok. Whatever you want to reach us out to, you can reach us out there. Yeah.
I'm over on Blue Sky at Tom Talks and on Twitter at Callahan on Air. So want to say thanks for tuning in once again to this episode of Locked On Mammoth. And we are only 3 days a week, not for too much longer. I think another couple of weeks. And then we're back to 5 days a week, bringing you daily content on the Mammoth. So hit that subscribe button. Thanks for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time. To make the playoffs this season, the Utah Mammoth are going to have to leapfrog some teams. We're going to tell you exactly who on today's Locked On Mammoth.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's time once again for Locked On Mammoth. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every single day when it comes to the Utah Mammoth hockey team. Heading into September here in just a couple of days. That means training camp, rookie camp. It's all right around the corner. Robyn and I are going to start counting it down with you. We're going to talk about not only what's going on with the Mammoth, but we're also going to do some previews. We've been doing some crossover episodes, which, by the way, if you haven't checked those out yet, please do. As we look around the Central Division. And a topic for later, is the Central Division the toughest division in the entire NHL? I think we can make a case either way. But Robyn, look, we've already said playoffs are bust. I think we need shirts that say playoffs are bust in blue for the Mammoth this year. Okay, so the pressure's there. They got to get in. Great. Who the heck are they going to leapfrog in the Central Division? That's today's topic. And I don't necessarily think it's an easy one, but I think we can come up with some answers.
We can come up with some answers. And I feel like what we can start off with, Tom, is talking about the trends, the trending directions of the other teams in the Central Division, right? Because there are some teams who we can at least we take when we compare to last year, they were playoff teams who are, let's say maybe even a top 3 team who are trending in the downwards direction, and there are some teams who are towards that bottom half who are trending in the upward direction. Because hey, that's the cycle of how things go in professional sports.
Absolutely is. I mean, somebody's misfortune is somebody else's good fortune. That's for sure. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Robyn, there's got to be some misfortune. Now, look, I'm going to start by once again defending my Winnipeg Jets and saying they're not the team that Utah is going to leapfrog. 2 years in a row, they have been the best defensive team in the NHL regular season. I understand playoff success has not been something that's been forthcoming for them. But Robyn, this is a regular season topic. This is who are you going to beat in the regular season? Are you going to stand with pretty much everybody else around the league who's once again going to pick Winnipeg to fail? Or are you converted now to Tom's point of view here? Because last year, I don't think you were too high on the Winnipeg Jets.
I wasn't too high on the Winnipeg Jets. Because to me, I think there were way too many question marks. Honestly, even going to this year, there are way too many question marks. However, Tom, there was a big however. Based off what I saw last year, and it's not even necessarily talking about the skill of the team itself, I just have a hard time really betting against as of right now, the best regular season goalie in the National Hockey League, Connor Hellebuyck. Like, he is just way too good for all our own good. When playoffs hit, that's a whole other story. But he's just that good. And, you know, if he continues to be that way, yeah, this team will, you know, I feel like there's no way that Utah can leapfrog them or catch up to them and beat them in the divisional standing, I should say. But that's not to say I don't like I said, I still have a lot of concerns. I guess
Robyn,
Winnipeg to me, like I said, there's just too many question marks in my.
But they're still making the playoffs in your mind, though, right? Or no?
Yes, they're still making the playoffs. At the very least, they are making the playoffs. In fact, they're still going to be a top 3 team, probably. But I don't. I'm just gonna say they're not going to win. I don't think they're going to win the Central. That's for a conversation maybe a little bit later. But they're still making the playoffs. Utah ain't beating them out. Like, they're not going to, like, Utah isn't going to be the odd man out to get you, or Winnipeg isn't going to be the odd man out to get Utah in.
So last year, the top 3 teams of the Central Division scored 277 goals each. That's Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado. Only one team in the entire league allowed less than 200, and that's Winnipeg, 191. Their plus 86 goal differential is insane. By way of comparison, you want to know what it takes Utah Mammoth fans, Utah let in 251 goals last year. That is a 59 goal difference. Is that right? No, that's more than that, Tom. That is 51 plus 9. That is 60. 60 goal difference. That's a lot, Robyn. That's a lot.
But over the course of a
yeah.
full 82 game season, it is a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's not quite a goal a game, and that's a lot to make up. So Utah's offense has got to be there, the defense has got to be there. Okay, so that was the President's Trophy this year. That was the best team in the league. Mm-hmm. So we're saying Winnipeg's in. Okay, so now Dallas finished second last year. Also, as I mentioned, 277 goals for, 224 against within the division. That was the second best total, and I think they have the second best goaltender in the division in Jake Ottinger. They have a coaching change that has been made this year. I know you're going to giggle every time this topic comes up, Robyn. You and your heightened sense of Schadenfreude. Look, I think Dallas is going to be better without Pete DeBoer. I've said that a million
Anybody's
times.
better without Pete DeBoer.
Well, he's the classic. I'll get you to the hump, but not over it.
Peter DeBoer is the kind of coach that will get you to a he said he will get you to a Stanley Cup final. He'll get you to a Western Conference final or whatever. But you can never, as you said, you'll never get over that hump and get to it. Did take a look at all the teams he's had in the past. Of course, I recognize his time in San Jose, Western Conference Finals through most of his time there, including a Stanley Cup final appearance. With Vegas, made some pretty deep runs, and then before getting out of their first non-playoff appearance overall, like as a whole, not too long ago either. And then Dallas, the absolute crapshoot that was with Dallas towards the end there, especially with the whole goaltender situation. And you mentioned, right, what he did with the goaltender situation. And to me, the big question is, yes, there is a goalie change, but is there still fallout? Because some teams will still experience a post-Peter DeBoer fallout.
And that's true. I don't think Dallas is going to fall off enough that they're going to not be a playoff team. I think they're too good, too deep. I mean, you or I could probably coach them into the playoffs because they have that many horses. The question is, of course, there actually has been a little bit of locker room discord there. That is the one thing that keeps me from just absolutely 100% certain smashing them into a playoff spot is if things get a little wonky in the locker room. I've been around this game for 25 years, Robyn, and I have seen an incredibly talented team fall apart because the locker room is not cohesive. And when you have divisions in the locker room, it's human nature. It bleeds into everything else, and it just brings everything down with it.
And it's interesting, Tom, because I will add this. For the last several years, I have predicted Dallas is either my Stanley Cup champion or as the Central Division or Western Conference champion. But I've always been really high on them. This is the first time I'm not, right? Okay. Honestly, I think like their ceiling is third place in the division. But that's, to me, I feel like it's either third place or wild card, or maybe I think that's the safe bet, either 3 or 4. That's where they're going to be. They're not going to fall all the way out, but they are going to fall a little bit.
Okay, so we have Dallas and Winnipeg in. That leaves us with a handful of other teams, and we've got to talk about who the Mammoth are going to leapfrog here. I've got some ideas for you, and I'm going to share them with you next. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, the NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Check this out. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, it makes every game more exciting to watch, and whether you're just watching your team, you're keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, And how, I mean, that's changed the game for all of us, right? We don't just watch our favorite teams anymore. Now we have to see how this guy's doing on this team, that guy's doing on that team. Well, now with FanDuel, it makes it even more exciting. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Well, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño. If you like what you hear, Locked On Mammoth, please subscribe to the podcast. Doesn't cost you a single thing. We appreciate everybody who does, the everydayers. We love you guys, and you all know, dating back, depending on how long you've been following the show, about the teams we're talking about right now in the Central Division. Who can Utah leapfrog this year? So Dallas and Winnipeg, we have them in. Colorado, I think, Robyn, is the other one we've got to talk about. Every year, I want to believe the Avalanche are going to be better. Every year, somebody gets majorly hurt. And every year, the Avalanche find a way to be like the least impressive good team to me. These guys, I look at the roster, and I'm like, how could a team with McKinnon and Makar not be dominating? And yet they just don't. And I can't figure this out.
It's interesting because you're right. And it's a team that feels very, very different from the Colorado team that won the Stanley Cup. Right? And it's hard. Yeah, you can't put your finger on it because you've got one of the best young forwards in the league, in Nathan McKinnon, and from at least what it very appears like a perennial Norris Trophy candidate in Cale Makar. Like you wonder what, like why, where is this? Maybe is it just very top heavy? Are they running into the same issues now that Edmonton is experiencing in the Pacific Division, minus the fact that Colorado actually has a Stanley Cup? Like, is that what they're experiencing?
And there's the Mikko Rantanen weirdness of him wanting out, didn't fit, bounced around, got traded twice, finally ended up in Dallas.
Rantanen pretty well in Dallas too.
Yeah, no, he was baller for a while in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
you know, he really went off. But now, I wonder if that was a distraction. Well, it was a distraction. How much? And now they're going to start fresh without that nonsense in the room, without that hanging over them. Now they get to go in and just, hey, guys, this is our room. This is it. Here's who we are. Let's move forward. And they have pieces to do that. I don't think they fall out of a playoff spot. I think they're too good and too deep still to fall out of a playoff spot. But I question the consistency. If they can put it together, yeah, they're a 100-point team, but they weren't quite a 50-win team, and they had to get a lot of their points past regulation. So they're playing a lot of close games last year, Robyn. I think they either need to take that next step and be better than that, or they are the start of the mid-pack in the Central to me.
And that would make sense, right? And to me, the simplest way I will explain it, I'll try to explain it at least, and I'll try to be in simple terms, I should say, is Colorado is going to be like one of those teams that is a perennial candidate, but just can never get over the hump, right? They will, I mean, again, with the exception of they actually did it once already. They're now on the point where like they're going to be there. They're always going to fight, and they're always going to do that because they have talent, and they're going to be there. But I feel like they're at a point where things are gonna start to slow down just a little bit. Not going to say it's gonna happen full stop. It's not like they're gonna go complete off a cliff like some teams have, where they go from first in the division to last. There are some teams that do that, but Colorado is not going to be one of those teams. It's going to be a very slow burn. They still got the talent. They're still going to be a relative top team in the Central Division. And they won't be able to get overshot by a wild card hopeful like Utah just yet.
Yep, window's still open. Window's still open for Colorado for sure. Hey, by the way, before we talk about the rest of the Central Division, we have an important request for you. Locked On would like to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and you can answer some questions about our advertisers and advertising as well. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link down in our show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out with that. All right, Robyn, we got to figure out who we're leapfrogging here. I am going to go ahead, and this is the confidence I have in this Utah Mammoth team for this year. After our crossover and talking to Haley about the Blues, I know you talked to Seth about the Wild, and then we've got, Chicago and Nashville in there as well. And you think, boy, can they, especially with Nashville, are they as bad as they really looked last year, or are they a different team? Robyn, with confidence, I'm going to go out and say, I think Utah leapfrogs all of them. I think they finish in front of the Wild. They finish in front of the Blues, in front of the Preds, and in front of the Blackhawks. Agree? Disagree? Roast me in the comments. What do you think?
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I feel like first and foremost, let's kind of work our way up here, right? I think it's a foregone conclusion. This team is better than the Blackhawks and the Predators, right?
Are the Preds that bad? Are they really that bad? They look so good on paper. Are they really that bad?
I said the same thing about the Sharks from like the late 10s to the early 20s, right? They were that good on paper, and guess what happened? They fell and became the worst team in the league. To me, I just don't see Nashville turning it around. I feel like they tried to buy in too much and bought pieces that just didn't work within their system, whatever it was, right? It just didn't work. So yes, I feel like, to me, again, I don't like putting guarantees out there, but it's as close to as one you can get that Utah will be better than both those two teams. Let's bring it to
St. Louis and the Wild now. These are
St. Louis and the Wild, right? This is where it gets tough because I feel like the Wild is improving a little bit. They've got some improvements, some kind of setbacks. It's interesting. We don't know maybe if there's
a
playoff
team last year.
They playoff team last year. There was a question. They're like what Utah is experiencing with a signing period. A now looking for an extension for Logan Cooley. Minnesota is looking for the same thing for Kirill Kaprizov, but Kaprizov is he's not even stateside. He's not even focused on that. And to me, maybe waiting too long could put a cloud over the head for the Wild. Who knows that can create an issue? Because Kaprizov is, he's like their future, right? He's the future of the Wild. What kind of cloud will that put over on that side? Who knows about that?
And here's my thing with the Wild. They can't really score. They just can't. 228 goals for.
Mm-hmm.
That was less than St. Louis, less than Utah. It was 14 more than Nashville. Okay. And we're talking about Nashville. Robyn, it was only 2 more goals than Chicago. Minnesota cannot score, even with Kaprizov. They just don't have offense.
And they don't. They were one of the best teams in the league. It's funny. They were one of the best teams in the league in the first half of the year.
Yes.
Right? It felt like they were going to run away with it all. And then injury after injury after injury after injury to them. And then things kind of go haywire for them. Things kind of go off the rails. And now they are -1 goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury, riding into the sunset with his in his retirement. Yes, salute to Marc-Andre Fleury.
Godspeed.
And they don't have a true backup goalie. Like, to me, that's one of the biggest. Like, you trust your other guy that much? Like, right now, like, I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they do trust him enough. But
to me, the Wild have to prove to me that last year wasn't a fluke. And as you mentioned, they've got
specifically that first half. Yeah.
Wallstedt. Yeah. Right. Was last year real or was it an illusion?
Which is the real them? It's like where the real Minnesota Wild, please stand up, right? Which one is it? Is it the first half Wild of last year? Is it the back half Wild of last year? If it's the first half Wild of last year, that team is being either first or second in my division rankings going into the for the Central Division, Tom. If it's the latter, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah. By the way, they did finally at least get Marco Rossi wrapped up, so that's something.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So, yeah, 15 million, 3 years, 5 million AAV. So what about St. Louis? St. Louis is another one of those inconsistent teams, right? I mean, if you watch the crossover with St. Louis episode, I don't bag on Jordan Binnington because I think he's one of the best goaltenders in the league when he's on. I just don't think he's one of the best goaltenders in the league overall because he's so streaky and so temperamental. When he's locked in, he can carry a team, but he's not always locked in.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem.
And there's a lot to question about his temperament. A lot of people question his temperament, right?
Well, you can see it during games when he's jawing at other goaltenders, going to the locker room between periods or getting into it around the net. Like, he's got to rein that in.
He does have to rein that in. And to me, Tom, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of it might have been, we talked about what Four Nations was, right? And what good thing it did. It kind of really brought some life to some of these players. And to me, I feel like it brought some life to Jordan Binnington, right? Towards that part, post Four Nations, Jordan Binnington was hot. I mean, he's riding off winning gold with Canada, right? He's having a fun time because Canada won the Four Nations, and over Connor Hellebuck and Team USA, but that could be an aspect. Maybe will there be the same effect come Winter Olympics? I don't know. Again, we can't predict the future, but you make the good point. Is there is such a huge question mark over which version of Jordan Binnington we're going to see that I just can't put my faith that they're going to do it again.
Yeah, and I feel like they're a top-heavy team offensively. They've got a lot up top, and then really not much in the depth as far as scoring goes. And then defensively, there's a lot of holes. And of course, Torrey Krug, as we, again, to reference the crossover episode, Krug may not ever play again. We'll certainly start the year on long-term IR. So I don't know. I don't know if that adds up to, can Binnington carry you through a full 84-game schedule and then into the playoffs? I don't know if he can do it the whole season long. By the way, Nick Bukestad, the Boomerang, ends up in St. Louis this offseason. I don't know if we'd mentioned that before.
You might have.
2 years at 1.75. Good for you, Nick. Good to see you sticking around.
Good for him.
But can he do it? I mean, if Binnington has to carry this team into the playoffs, Robyn, can he do it? And that is the ultimate question. I don't think so. It can't be just him.
It can't be just him, right? And I think that's the reason why, like, to me, like, yes, that St. Louis is the team to me that Utah will leapfrog. And again, you said Minnesota as well. I am not quite there yet. I feel like Minnesota is, like, at least on paper, a better team. Utah's getting there, though. I think they're going to close. I feel like if Utah overachieves, they could beat. I think whoever I have in that wild card spot, but because I feel like I have Minnesota a little bit higher, and unless Minnesota underachieves, then yes, Utah beats them out as well. But again, we can't predict the future. We can't say it's going to be from this, but we do our best. We always do our best. Sometimes we have fun with it.
I'm predicting the future. 4th place. There you go. Take it to the bank.
Nostratom.
Yeah,
right?
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus.
Yep, that's it. So, all right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about, is the Central Division the toughest division in the entire NHL? Give us your thoughts in the comments. And who do you think are the teams that the Mammoth leapfrog to get into the playoffs this year? Tom Callahan, Robyn, Leaño, Locked On Mammoth. Thanks for joining us, everybody. All right. So, of the divisions, now I'm going to say this. When I was with Nashville, I thought the Central Division was at that time the toughest division, and it looked a little different then. But I'm going to read very quickly, Robyn, the teams in all these divisions, and I want you to give me your honest opinion if you think the Central is the toughest. In the East, we have the Atlantic, which is Toronto, Tampa, Florida, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo, and Boston. In the Metropolitan Division, Washington, Carolina, New Jersey, Columbus, the Rangers, the Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Flyers. Western side now, we've got the Central, which is Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, Utah, Nashville, and Chicago. And the Pacific, Vegas, Los Angeles, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Anaheim, Seattle, and San Jose. Let's start this way, Robyn. Any division you eliminate right away?
Pacific.
Okay, I'm on board with you on this one. Yes.
If you asked me a few years ago, then by a few years ago, I mean like the 2010s decade, Pacific Division would be a little bit higher, but they still wouldn't make the final cut as the toughest division.
I'm going to make the cut, or I'm going to make the call for cutting the Metro as well. Pacific and Metro, I think, go for me right away.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, Tom. And again, because I'm gonna do a comparison here. Because if you asked me 10 years ago, the Metro was actually running for me as the toughest division. Because the Metro at the time, the Flyers were a good team, the Penguins a good team, the Rangers were a good team, the Islanders were, the Capitals. They were all just so gosh darn good that you could it was hard. It was such a crowded race for the playoffs in the Metro. 10 years, not barely just 10 years ago, Tom. But now it's seen a lot of turnover. The Penguins are no longer even close to what they were. And the New York teams are...
The Rangers have got to be better this year. They were terrible last year, and they're too good of a roster to be that terrible 2 years in a row.
Fair, yeah.
But that just to me means they're going to leapfrog the Blue Jackets and maybe the Devils. So, that is what it is. But I just don't think the Metro is strong enough.
No, but I'm with you there. The Metro is the next team we eliminate.
Okay, so head-to-head now. Central versus the Atlantic. And again, the Atlantic, Toronto, Tampa, Florida, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo, Boston. Look, the Sabres way down the Atlantic, but the Hawks way down the Central. So, but is Boston as bad as they were? Is Detroit, Montreal, Ottawa? Are those teams, we always talk about these guys, they should take the next step. I mean, can you have 7 out of 8 teams legitimately fighting for a playoff spot in the Atlantic?
7 out of 8? I don't know. And it's interesting. This is the way I'll put it, Tom. If you take just the top 3 teams at face value, right? If you just do top 3, I'm going to go out and say it. The Atlantic beats the Central. But again, we're talking about toughest division. And we're talking overall from top to bottom. And if you look at, the top 6 teams, again, I'm leaving Nashville and Chicago out. But if you look at the 6 teams from Winnipeg to Utah, based off the points and how well they played, there was a period where so many points were so close that it was hard to figure out where you're going to get. So, like, at any given day, you can be in a playoff spot in the Central Division, or you can be out. But then 1 week later, you're back in the playoff spot. It's so gosh darn close. Yes, you have a top I mean, they had the top two, especially like Winnipeg and Dallas, right? Were so good this last year, as an example, right? 116 and 106 points. But outside of that, right, it was so close that Minnesota was top three for a while. They dropped down, almost didn't make it, and then they kind of just stabilized. They stuck themselves back into a playoff spot. But it's so competitive that we still didn't know towards the end there.
You know what, Robyn? I think that's the point I'd want to make too about this is, and what kind of sways me to the Central is the mid pack is so stout. It is so good. It's so robust. All of those teams can beat each other on absolutely any given night. I just think that there's more consistency in the toughness of the Central.
Let's do this as an example, Tom. Let's take a look at, let's say that I want to get your honest opinion on this. If you take the fifth place team from the Central, the fifth place team from the Central versus the fifth place team from the Atlantic. All right, so the St. Louis Blues against the Montreal Canadiens. Who wins in the 7-game series?
I think St. Louis does.
Exactly. That's the kind of point we're trying to make here, right? If you look at the mid pack in the Central is so much better. Yes, I will concede the top. The top teams to the Atlantic. You take a look at it, right? Toronto, Tampa, and Florida. Those teams are just so gosh darn good. Regular season, right? Because Toronto in the playoffs, just forget about it, right?
And Florida wins the cup and finished third. Right? They did not have home ice in the entire Atlantic Division playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy, but that's the case, right? Yeah, the champion finished third in the Atlantic, which is absolutely crazy. That shows you how just stacked the top is. Not to mention, of course, trying to think, it's been 5 years in this, or however many years in this decade already, right? And you have four of the champions in this decade alone are from the Atlantic Division, and they're just two teams, right, in the same state in Florida, in Tampa Bay, in Florida. Like, it's that to me, that's crazy, and that's why I'm conceding the top of. If you look at just the top three alone, Atlantic takes it, but from top to bottom, Central's a lot more stacked.
So let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Or you can reach out to us on social media, Robyn, if they want to talk about who Utah is going to leapfrog, or if they think the Central's the toughest division. Where can they find us?
They can find us just about everywhere on social media, primarily on X / Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. At Locked On Mammoth, at Locked On Mammoth. And again, it's everywhere else too, the same at on Instagram, Threads, on Facebook, on TikTok, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to reach out to us on. You can find me personally, primarily active over on Twitter, at Robyn_Leaño.
It'll always be Twitter to me, at Callahan on air. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Tom Talks. So, all right, everybody, let us know your opinions. And thank you so much. If you like what you heard, please share the show with your friends and family. Turn them on to Locked On Mammoth as well. We appreciate you being here, and we will talk to you next time.